So guys, what exactly is Bootgate?
How tall?
5'11".
5'11". Okay. Why don't you wear tennis shoes and dress shoes?
I do wear tennis shoes when I work out. Yeah, 100%.
You do?
Yep.
Okay. I got a gift for you. I'd love for you to wear, okay, I shop at Ferragamo, okay, and
I don't accept gifts. I can't accept it.
I totally get it.
I'm sorry.
Wear the high heels. Let us answer the press. Let us send the messaging out. And Ron was like, well, okay, I guess. Man. See, this is why Ron's VP material. Great policy, good governor. No, not a smart guy. Not a smart guy at all. Did you think nobody would notice you were wearing high heels, dude? Tell me your foot's in there, okay? Show me your...
I can't believe that I'm going to be doing a video that's this long about the DeSantis campaign, but seeing how it is that they are rooting on the eventual nominee to go to jail, I pretty much have no choice but to talk about this. And it's really because it shows you exactly the level of incompetence that the DeSantis online team has. Now, guys, before we get into this, I'm going to take you guys back in time to a situation where a presidential candidate was running for president. And of course, his height was taken advantage of. I'll explain that here in a second. But of course, it ultimately failed. Now, you probably think to yourself, man, you really and truly have telegraphed who you want as nominee. Look, guys, I've been, for the most part, quiet about this because I understand that there's probably going to be some overlap in candidate preference, at least as far on the Republican ticket. I've chosen to make the videos a little bit more cultural, a little bit more in tune to things that are going on that's not political, which, of course, is still political because, let's be honest, politics is downstream from culture. And, of course, we're seeing it every day in our pop culture, sports, video games, all that type of stuff. But still, at the same time, we need to talk about this because this also shows you exactly how it is that somebody who's running for office is not exactly in touch with the online sphere, meaning memes. This video is going to be relatively lengthy. Make sure you guys stick around for the full video. I actually made it last night, but it was actually 45 minutes. I've chosen to kind of chalk this thing down, kind of cut it down, be a little bit more concise. It'll come out tonight. But let's go ahead and dive into this because we need to talk about exactly how incompetent this particular campaign is. And the example I'm going to show you is from the 2000 presidential election between Bush and Gore. During the third debate, which of course was the final debate, and many people think that at that time debates actually decided presidencies. Let's just put it this way here. An attempt at trying to intimidate somebody, especially given the fact that Bush was a relatively small president. And I'm pretty sure you guys will see it right here in a second, exactly what people who are not exactly tall should actually be doing when running for office. Let's go ahead and watch this.
I specifically would like to know whether Governor Bush will support the Dingell-Norwood bill, which is the main one pending.
Governor Bush, you may answer that if you'd like, but also I'd like to know how you see the differences between the two of you, and we need to move on.
Well, the difference is that I can get it done. That I can get something positive done on behalf of the people. That's what the question in this campaign is about. It's not only what's your philosophy and what's your position on issues, but can you get things done? And I believe I can.
All right. What about the Dingell-Norwood?
The pain and anguish in Al Gore's face right there when he realized that he was actually going to try to intimidate the former president or the presidential candidate he was running against, or as George W. Bush would say on multiple occasions, my opponent. I'm not a Bush fan or anything. I just remember the time. By the way, Al Gore always looked a little bit like wax. He was very stiff. I mean, we eventually got South Park making fun of him, calling him Man Bear Pig, all that type of stuff, which of course he is in fact Man Bear Pig. It's quite frankly a meme, and it's the way we make fun of him, especially with the whole climate crap. And of course he's the main person who pitched this entire agenda here in the United States. But still, the reason why I played that is because George W. Bush knew that he was a small man. He knew that he was short. He knew that there weren't that many ways around it. So what he decided to do was just good old-fashioned embrace it. I'm the little man fighting a great big giant monster, which is exactly what the DeSantis campaign probably could have turned their campaign into. But of course, their online team is absolutely horrible. Now, what does this have to do with Bootgate? Well, I'll be explaining that to you guys in a second. The thing is this right here. Karl Rove and the Bush campaign had studied Al Gore on several occasions, and they had noticed that in previous debates that he had, he loved to get up and try to intimidate the smaller man. As you guys saw, Bush just simply nodded and just kept on going, and the audience could see that this attempt at intimidation obviously failed. It faltered because Bush understood there was a such thing called comedy. There's another guy who understands comedy, actually two presidents who understand comedy. Let me go ahead and give you guys an example of that.
Existence and character. Berlin remains the most compelling argument for an open world. We're reminded of the many traditions of openness and democracy that have marked the history of this city. America missed me.
Reagan, yes, after being assassinated by John Hinckley Jr., after surviving it all, he took the tone of, you know what, I'm just going to use comedy to diffuse certain situations. Obviously, he was not getting shot at, a balloon popped, and of course he responded with, miss me, that type of thing there, or you missed me, which is just another attempt at trying to lighten the mood, to show people that he was not scared, he was not flustered or anything like that. The old Gipper had charisma. Whether you like him or not, he did in fact have charisma. By the way, we'll be doing a video on him one day next year, because a lot of people will sit here and they wonder why it is he's still so loved, even though his administration is kind of overrated. We'll be explaining that in the next year, so make sure you guys stick around. But here's the deal. This entire thing started because the DeSantis online team does not know how to have fun. Christina Pushaw, of course, there's this account that I'm showing you now, Max Nordau, who's really a sock puppet account that's probably being ran by Brian Griffin, also being ran by Jeremy Redfern. These people are absolutely annoying. Also Pedro Gonzalez, but we'll get to Pedro here in a second, because this goes to the heart of dividing the actual field up a lot more than normal. But as elections typically tend to get closer to election day, the base typically tends to coalesce. It's one of the main reasons why I'm not as panicked about the party being divided, because I think that at this point in time, there's not a whole lot more you can hit the eventual nominee with that he's not already used to. I mean, they're trying to take him off the ballot in Colorado, but of course this attempt will probably get overturned because they're trying to use the 14th Amendment. It's already failed in one court, that there being New Hampshire, not the most conservative court in the world. But then again, though, when it gets to SCOTUS, yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys are kind of picking up on this entire thing as nothing more than a money grab, which is something that I've thought about a lot, because really gun control in a lot of ways is a money grab too. But we'll talk about it in different videos. But how did this entire thing start? Well, it actually started with Ashley St. Clair.
Okay, POV, you're Ron DeSantis getting ready to go out.
Ashley St. Clair writes for the Babylon Bee. Babylon Bee, as many of you guys may already know, if you don't know, is a satirical website that makes fun of Republicans from the right, of course, and they also make fun of liberals like crazy. They have such extremely funny pieces sometimes. Of course, the overall writing itself is downgraded, not because of Ashley, but because they chose to go ahead and take a certain dog in the fight when they decided to embrace DeSantis. By the way, one more thing, too, needs to be said to all the people out there who were DeSantis people. I told these people a long time ago that just because Elon Musk had endorsed you did not mean that Elon Musk was on your side. He basically allowed all the old MAGA accounts to come back, and ever since then, the MAGA accounts have ran completely roughshod all over the DeSantis accounts, because the DeSantis accounts don't really know how to meme, and they don't know how to do basic comedic things. I mean, some of the memes that they produce are not exactly funny. They almost seem like leftist memes. Don't worry, that's a project too, because the left obviously can't meme. We'll get to that here in a second. But this entire situation was nothing more than her just simply trolling Christina Pushaw, and the reason why is because Christina Pushaw was the one who's practically running DeSantis's campaign, and as a result of this, I'm showing you guys some poll numbers here. I want you guys to see DeSantis can't break out of the 9% shell. As a matter of fact, Nikki Haley has actually overtaken him in South Carolina, which I personally thought was going to happen, even though I didn't do a video on, because she was a former South Carolina governor. Still, though, they can't crack into Trump's very, very massive lead. So after Ashley St. Clair posts that, she then responds after being called out by the DeSantis team, because they once again don't know how to take a joke. They once again don't know how to roll with the punches. And of course, Ashley St. Clair responded with this.
So this is my first apology video. I made a joke about Ron DeSantis. There's a very popular meme going around that DeSantis wears heels, very high heels. And I made a joke. I put on my stilettos and I said, POV, you're Ron DeSantis getting ready to go out. I thought it was funny. Many people thought it was funny. I make jokes about everyone. Trump, DeSantis, Vivek. But the DeSantis team didn't think it was funny, and that's what's most important. So I want to apologize from the bottom of my heart. And they said it wasn't a very substantive criticism. And they also notified me that DeSantis doesn't wear stilettos, he wears cowboy boots. So not only would I like to apologize, but I would like to be accurate. I would like to correct the record and do this again. So take 2. POV, you're Ron DeSantis getting ready to go out.
Your best. These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days, these boots.
You know, Razor Fist made a very good point in a tweet, basically saying that Paul Stanley said, look, you know, I have these heels, whatnot. The reason why Bootgate exists is because many people believe that Ron DeSantis is 5'7" or 5'6" in real life, and not 5'11" like he says. I'm showing you guys some photos. It's the same photos I showed you guys at the very beginning of the video, that many people have asserted that he's got lifts. Now, I want to say this right now. I wear cowboy boots from time to time. I am exactly 5'11". Of course, my military records say I'm 5'11", and when I joined the Marine Corps, I was 5'9.5". I grew roughly 1.5 inches. It happens from time to time. And some people think that 5'11" is not even really and truly a real height. It is a real height, okay? I'm not trying to say this to make myself sound special or anything, but the truth is this right here. It seems like an unreal height because it's right there at the tip of 6 feet. Cowboy boots, for the most part, only add maybe an inch and a half to your actual height. The most, and I've actually, the set of cowboy boots that I primarily wear are a set of Justin cowboy boots. They've got a type of brown cordovan color. If anything, what you're seeing now with his foot, the lap, you can tell it's obviously fake. You can tell he's wearing lifts. It's not hard to see. And you got this one person out there saying, well, here he is in cleats. Yeah, oh, yeah, you got him for using lifts. Honey, that does not do anything except because cleats only add about maybe 1/4 to 1/2 inch to your height. So I have no idea where she was going at with that. If anything, it just kind of proves that maybe the man is, in fact, shorter than we expected. But still, you got to understand who it is that you're going up against if you're the DeSantis team. You're going to have to learn to embrace comedy to a certain degree. It is something that, quite frankly, this campaign does not know how to do. Case in point, the Trumpster. Let's take a look at Donald Trump, for example. Let's go back in time. During the 2016 presidential election, he took a story from the National Enquirer, the lie papers. The story was that Rafael Cruz, Ted Cruz's father, ate breakfast with Lee Harvey Oswald. Let me go ahead and remind you.
His father. I don't know his father. I met him once. I think he's a lovely guy. All I did is point out the fact that on the cover of the National Enquirer, there was a picture of him and crazy Lee Harvey Oswald having breakfast. Now, Ted never denied that it was his father. Instead, he said, Donald Trump, I had nothing to do with it. This was a magazine that, frankly, in many respects, should be very respected. They got OJ, they got Edwards, they got this. I mean, if that was the New York Times, they would have gotten Pulitzer Prizes for their reporting. I've always said, why didn't the National Enquirer get the Pulitzer Prize for Edwards and O.J. Simpson and all of these things? But anyway, so they have a picture, an old picture, having breakfast with Lee Harvey Oswald. Now, I'm not saying anything. They said, and here's how the press takes that story. So this had nothing to do with me, except I might have pointed it out. But it had nothing to do with me. I have no control over anything. I might have pointed it out. But they never denied. Did anybody ever deny that it was the father? They're not saying, oh, that wasn't really my father. It's a little hard to do because it looks like him. So here's the story. The press takes that and they say, Donald Trump and his conspiracy theories, he went out and said his father was with Lee Harvey Oswald and he assassinated the president. What did I do?
That story was played up to comedic effect. Even though, I don't know if there was really any actual truth to it or not. I'm not entirely sure. But I remember that incident. It was so sensational. It turned off a lot of voters. But, of course, at the same time, it also brought a lot of voters to the former president. The fact of the matter is that he took a hold of a situation. He made light of it. That's what good presidential candidates do. You have to have some level of charisma. And the DeSantis campaign doesn't really have any. So when he goes on the Patrick Bet David podcast, which is, and at one point in time was very favorable to Ron, which of course is in the state of Florida. It's in Miami. That's where he does his podcast at. And you get roughly a minute and 5 seconds here. And you see how he responds at the very end. People are actually beginning to wonder if this man's campaign has officially died.
I'm sure your marketing team points out how they're trying to troll you in the marketplace. Okay, I'm sure they're doing that. Can you bring this one clip? I know you were on, what do you call it? On, what was it? Bill Maher, and Bill Maher talked about the boots. I've seen you walk with these boots. Go ahead and play this clip. This on TikTok went viral. It doesn't have 1 million views. It doesn't have, 10 million views. This thing's got 1.2 million likes. And some people are wondering,
what are they? I don't even, I haven't seen that.
They've not shown this to you. Okay,
No.
what they're trying to say with this is that in your boots, you have heels.
No.
That's what they're trying to say.
Those are just standard off the rack Lucchese.
How tall are you? How tall are you, Governor? How tall?
5'11".
5'11". Okay. Why don't you wear tennis shoes and dress shoes?
I do wear tennis shoes when I work out. Yeah, 100%.
You do.
Yep.
Okay. I got a gift for you. I'd love for you to wear. Okay. I shop at Ferragamo. Okay. And
I don't accept gifts. I can't accept it.
I totally get it.
I'm sorry.
Ron, all you had to do, instead of saying, I can't take gifts, this is one of the main reasons why people were turned off by you. Great policy guy, well, kind of overrated if you ask me, because if you actually look into the policies itself. By the way, the Republican Party in Florida has basically told him to drop out because they see the writing on the wall and they want him to go back to being an actual governor. Interest rates, insurance rates are through the roof. A lot of Californians have moved in there. A lot more New Yorkers have. It's driven the price of everything up, and a lot of people are a little bit pissed off about this, and they just want him to drop out. The thing is this right here. The best way you could have responded to this was not saying, I can't take any gifts, was maybe had some fun with it. I don't know, maybe put the boots on, take your boots off, put them on, this, that, and the other, walk around and say, look, I don't put lifts in my boots. Or if it's exposed that you have lifts, just say, look, man, I'm on the global stage. I need to stand a little bit taller. But when that happens, insecurities also come out too. This entire situation was a situation that Ron DeSantis was not going to win regardless. And it's really screwed up too, because even though he's not my preferred candidate for president, he actually had a pretty good showing with Patrick Bet-David. Bootgate is just the icing on the cake. It's just the cherry on top of why it is that people think that this campaign is totally and utterly incompetent. And it plays downstream. Do you guys remember earlier I mentioned the fact that DeSantis' online team was incompetent? Also something else too, it's very weird. Massive DeSantis supporter Bill Mitchell said that he was 5'7", yet now they're claiming he's 5'11". Yeah, it's just such an extremely incompetent team of losers. I have no idea where to start, but let me give you an example of what I mean. This campaign staff has this tendency to attack people who just simply ask a question. MAGA Nordo, Max Nordo, wherever he is, he's probably one of the biggest examples of how bad it is. Of course, I've been blocked by a lot of these people. John Cardillo, also at the same time, ran to that team. Dave Rubin has been very heavily on that team too. We all know about Dave Rubin, same guy who, by the way, decided he wanted to. He claims he adopted these 2 kids. Him and his male lover decided to practically rent 2 women's wombs to steal a child, actually 2 kids. That's one of the main reasons why I keep telling people he's not some base conservative. You guys need to understand that he used to work at TYT, and he's bringing a lot of those views with him to the Republican Party. People just don't want to see it, and obviously when he decides to rent 2 women's wombs with his male boyfriend, something that conservatives, quite frankly, don't like, I'm pretty sure you guys get the point. He's actually corroding the conservative movement as a whole, especially Ben Shapiro, by allowing him in. Here's the thing, though. The DeSantis campaign team, their online staff, completely, totally incompetent. Christina Pushaw does not seem to understand anything. She does not understand politics as a whole. She does not seem to understand actual politicians and how to actually win an election, at least on a national level. Jeremy Redfern is absolutely terrible. He's garbage. Brian Griffin is the one that we believe operates the Max Tordo account, but it could be Jeremy Redfern, too. Bill Mitchell, of course, we now call Shill Mitchell, the aging lesbian, as you guys are hearing from me. And there's many more DeSantis bot accounts that are absolutely horrible. I've talked about this on the channel a few times before, and I've chosen to kind of stay back a little bit. And I personally believe it's the online team that's actually killing his campaign. Then we get to somebody like, say, Pedro. Make sure you guys watch the next 2 minutes or so, and I'll come back on the other end and kind of explain what's going on here, and Pedro as well. So make sure you guys watch it all the way through, and we'll go a little bit deeper.
There are a few polls. Harvard has Haley behind DeSantis. Harvard actually has DeSantis at 30%. I don't see DeSantis being able to survive this. I don't see it. We got this tweet from Mark Dice. He says, "We're going to have to start asking about Ron DeSantis's boots every day. His fans flip out almost as bad as the libtards do when you misgender someone. This is already fun." And then 2 boot emojis. He says, if Trump loses in 2024, of course the DeSantis people will blame Trump supporters when they themselves fractured the party and aided Democrats by attacking Trump instead of uniting behind him. Typical leftist tactic. Blame others for what they themselves are guilty of. I'm gonna correct the record for both you, Mark and Pedro. Pedro responds, "This guy is completely incorrect. Trump opened the primary by suggesting DeSantis is a pedo and pushing the lie that George Soros endorsed him. Only Trump people said from the start that they won't back an alternative. Some even said they actively work against DeSantis if he's the nominee. He's already been confirmed that if you are coordinating with Democrats against DeSantis, including people who are effectively part of the campaign, they have used actual leftist tactics like filing bogus ethics complaints and amplifying complaints filed by Democrats against DeSantis. His team tried to get journalists fired, like yours truly, but I'm not the only one. And I know for a fact that high-profile MAGA celebs have been enlisted as attack dogs by Team Trump. I was notified ahead of time, in one instance, by someone who had been called upon to go after me. Absolutely no one has done more to divide the GOP than Trump and his goons, up to abandoning and burning friends. It's not even close." Oh, man, there's so much to correct there. If Trump loses in 2024, it will be because he already lost in 2020, oversaw more losses in 2022, and has surrounded himself with people who figured out how to grift regardless of the outcome of elections. Trump created the model where he raised $250 million after losing to Biden in 2020 by promising to overturn the results. He didn't. He used the money on himself, on his legal bills, on Melania's hairstylist. The people around him understand that he doesn't have to win for them to keep their mansions and cars and luxury lifestyles. He just has to remain the center of attention, the eternal damsel in distress. You know, Pedro, this reads like one of those leftist memes, overly explaining, like verbose. And that's the thing that the left doesn't understand, okay? Now, it's probably true that Trump's got campaign people targeting his competition. You think it's just DeSantis? They're probably going after everybody. But of course, DeSantis was the real threat. DeSantis was actually the predicted front runner. He was in the prediction markets ahead of Trump. Why wouldn't Trump go after him? Spare me any of your, you are a bad person for dividing. Welcome to a primary.
Really quick, before we dunk on Pedro, Tim Pool has tried to have DeSantis influencers on his show. A while back, he got into it over the whole Jazz Jennings thing. He was saying that why hasn't DeSantis fixed this, which, of course, me personally, I did not think DeSantis could fix that because it was pretty much already done. It wasn't his fault. Everything he was signing was coming along after Jazz Jennings even started. And I even did a video on this. And looking back on it, I probably shouldn't have done it. But I'm glad looking at it now that it at least gives me something to talk about, especially when it goes back to the past of Tim Pool and DeSantis influencers. Tim Pool has had Will Chamberlain on, another major DeSantis who's now turned Never Trump. He's had John Cardillo on a couple of times, major DeSantis, anti-Trump all of a sudden. He's had some DeSantis personalities on his show, including the little debate that he did. Let me cut the light down a little bit. There we go. He's even had the girl from the girl who used to run the gay-based Patriot. She's not running lives a TikTok account. That's I can't what this damn girl's name is. They're the crazy one with the dark hair, looks a little bit like Rosie O'Donnell. But the thing is this right here. He's had DeSantis people on the show before, and it always gets extremely combative because when he asks a question, they completely flip out and go crazy. He wanted Christina Pushaw to go on the show. That's the reason why he did what he did. He wanted somebody from the DeSantis team to go on his show and actually have a conversation with him. There's a lot, by the way, to discuss, especially when it comes to Pedro, which we'll get to here in a second. And, of course, Mark Dice, who has been, for the most part, completely accurate on this topic. By the way, we'll be talking about Mark Dice in tomorrow's video because, once again, it's one of those situations where you may have to praise somebody and then you may have to attack him. It's very, very weird. I'm not going to attack him himself, but just the point. The fact of the matter is this right here. These people are incompetent and they're trying to go out of their way to divide the base, or either they don't realize that they're dividing the base. My personal feeling is it's a vast majority of a lot of these people are old school Bernie Bro accounts. And if you know the Bernie Bro MO, then you would know that their purpose was to completely attack and bully people into supporting their candidate, which at that time was Bernie Sanders. And a lot of these people, they turned right back around and became Trump influencers at some point in time. One of those, of course, was H.A. Goodman, but H.A. Goodman, of course, has stayed loyal to the man he voted for in 2016. Fact of the matter is this right here. Tim was wanting to get a response out of the DeSantis team, and he wanted Christina Pushaw or Jeremy Redfern or Brian Griffith to go on the show and actually explain what the hell was going on. That's what he was trying to do, and what did they do in the process? They attacked him. That's how they responded to Temple. They attacked him online, and of course, now he has a negative relationship with the DeSantis people. With that right there being said, however, let's go ahead and get to Pedro. Pedro Gonzalez is one of the worst influencers on the platform. He's probably the dirtiest, the nastiest of the DeSantis crowd, okay? The other day, he got into it with Candace Owens, and I was always under the impression that Pedro was gay. So when he said that his wife had kids, of course, I was like, dude, we thought you were gay. What do you mean you're married? I mean, it's just, he's a very easy person to dunk on, is what I'm going to say. Number one, Trump never actually accused DeSantis of being a pedophile. What happened is that he shared the same photo that the Gillum team had shared, because Trump has a tendency to do this. He has a tendency to say some very, very crazy, wacky stuff and turn people off. It's a primary. You're going to have jabs back and forth. You're going to get into arguments with people. And if you point something out or lie on the DeSantis campaign, they go completely crazy. Mark Dice pointed this out a year ago, and he thought that when they were pushing DeSantis in 2022, the only thing they were doing was dividing the party. Now, some people may use the logic of, well, what if Trump ends up going to jail? Trump's not going to jail. He's got the Secret Service. The most they could ever do to him was put him on house arrest, of course, in Mar-a-Lago, and more than likely in Trump Tower. If anything, he'd just be going to his house. To go on top of this, to make matters 10 times worse, of course, he can turn himself in and to get a mugshot, as you guys have already seen before. He could have said no to that and not done anything. He could have gotten, let's just say that somebody could have said, we're not going to extradite him, because he was in Florida at the time. That right there could have happened. Fact of the matter is that he was never convicted on anything. Yes, he was impeached twice, but in order to properly lock up a president, you have to impeach said individual, and you have to actually get conviction. And impeachment's not an actual conviction. The DeSantis team runs this narrative all the time, but of course, if you listen to actual legal scholars and actual former attorneys, guys like, say, Dershowitz, Barnes, they tell you flat out that the most you can do is maybe at best get him off the ballot. And the way that they're doing it in the 14th Amendment is not exactly working out for them, even though it may work out for them in Colorado to then turn right back around and get reversed on appeal at the Supreme Court. Fact of the matter is that the DeSantis campaign, they typically tend to do this, and I think that they're doing this to make fun of Ron's lack of charisma. I mean, look, guys, I showed you guys how DeSantis responded earlier, when in reality, in today's world, it's going to take somebody with the charisma of this here.
Acres is the place to be. Farm living is the life for me. Trump, you know our wings will make you happy.
Between a wet raccoon and Donald J. Trump's hair. A wet raccoon doesn't have $7 billion fucking dollars in the bank.
Hey, look at this! Toronto Trump!
It's Trump the Thumper.
To defeat the left. Yes, I played a few things back to back from Trump's past, stuff like Trump chicken wings, Green Acres. Trump's actually a troll, and he's actually got a lot of self-deprecating humor. Like, he actually makes fun of himself from time to time. He's not above doing that. I think it mostly depends on what it is that's actually being said to him and about him is exactly how he responds. But let's also not forget the moment before the 2016 election that I personally think softened the audience to him. Let's go ahead and roll this.
To know if there's something we could do that's just not presidential, really, or something that we can do now that we're just both civilians. Like
what? This is... I'm not liking the sound of this. Go ahead.
Can I mess your hair up? I'll be gentle.
The answer is yes, but the people in New Hampshire, where I'm going to be in about an hour from now, I hope they're going to understand. Okay?
You say yes?
Go ahead with my hairspray.
A moment that raging never-Trumper Charles Krauthammer said on Fox News, a special report, that this right here might get to be the moment that he gets elected. Krauthammer, by the way, would eventually go out there and vote for him to vote against Hillary Clinton, which is something that a lot of never-Trumpers actually did. They almost allowed that wretched witch to get the actual presidency at that time in 2016. So the thing about Bootgate is this right here. It's another means to make fun of a dying campaign is all this is. It's another way to make fun of a campaign that has no charisma and to make fun of the supporters of DeSantis, who, by the way, I personally believe are all old school Bernie bros, because their method of attack on people is the exact same method of attack that Bernie Sanders supporters used in 2016 and 2020 to try to bully people into supporting them. It never works. It turns people off. These people are completely incompetent. And if they had been smart, they just would have told DeSantis to just straight up lean into this. But as you guys can see, that campaign is totally incompetent. With that right there being said, guys, make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sound off in the comment section, and I'll see you guys. And something else, too, needs to be said. And this goes back to what Tim was saying at in that first clip. People were going to figure out that you were lying about it, man. Just wear regular boots. I mean, dude. So what if you're 5'6", 5'7"? James Madison was like 5'3". My personal favorite president, the greatest president ever, was like 5'3". I mean, dude, there are presidents who have been below 5'10". I mean, dude, just freaking embrace it. Call it the Napoleon complex. I mean, you love the whole Giga Chad thing. Why not just lean into it? I'm Napoleon, or I've got a Napoleon complex. Some dudes will actually like it. Some women will like it too. You got to learn to embrace this type of thing, man.